Business leaders know the future is already here. The economy is shifting. Non-humans are entering the workforce. Nothing feels certain. SHRM understands those evolving challenges, both in the workplace and the wider world. In this podcast, we'll bring together authors, researchers, executives, and non-traditional experts to help you take on the challenges others haven't yet considered. Because you don't need to be a futurist, you need actionable insights now. You need to be a Tomorrowist. I'm Jerry Wan. Welcome to Tomorrowist, where we explore the trends shaping the future of work. We're recording live at the CEO Summit in Virginia, where we're sitting down with business leaders who are navigating transformation, leading through disruption, and preparing their organizations for what's next. Here to share his perspective is Bill McCarthy, Chairman of the Board at Logos. Bill, welcome to Tomorrowist.
Thank you, Jerry.
So you recently transitioned into the new role of chairman, handing the keys to the Logos kingdom to Chris Magura. And so would love to talk to you about that transition and how you navigated during your time as CEO and sort of what the vision was. And then I'd love to talk to our audience about broad strategy, vision setting, and intentional succession planning. Obviously, that's something that leaders, we all can do better. Thinking about what's next, and even though you transition out of that role, you're in a different role, sort of overseeing the leadership team and navigating the company from the external perspective. You have decades experience working at companies large and small across a variety of different functions and sectors. And so really excited to chat with you about that. But let's start with give us sort of the quick history, the shorter recent history of what happened at Logos and sort of what the impetus was for that movement.
Our big change for a software company, we're both software and content. So what I mean by that is we have a content library of about 300,000 different books. All of those are indexed and tagged. They're searchable. We work in the faith ecosystem, more evangelical Christian faith. And so you can purchase those books electronically. They're indexed, they're tagged, they're searchable, they're yours for life. But what underpins our business is really our software. And for the last 30 years, we spent a lot of time working on building a software capability that's unique to any company in the world in our space. When I joined, we were more of a perpetual software company, meaning every couple of years we'd drop a new release, we would sell the software, and in selling that new release, we would go through a bit of a growth phase, and then we'd get back to fingers on keyboards and working on the next release a couple years later. The big shift for us when I joined 2 years ago was that we wanted to move towards subscription, which really behind the scenes means you're in a continuous development cycle from a software development standpoint. Many companies have made the transition. It was just our time to go through that.
Sure, and I think, as consumers, we've seen a lot of it, right? And so most of us pay for Spotify, Apple, Netflix on the content side. And for folks who are in the, the business world, even things like Microsoft Office and Adobe have gone from buying a software. And, some of us are old enough to know you went to Best Buy and bought a box that came with a CD. That had one
I'm
code,
old enough to know that.
the floppy disks. And then now you pay for it, and if you can cancel at any time. And so it does have different usage implications. It also has different revenue implications and projection implications. And so share with us sort of what the impetus for that big change was, because it is a tectonic shift in the entire business model.
Yeah, it is. And it's you can't underestimate the challenges that go with it. We'll often refer to a J curve. And so what maybe you made $1 on before the shift is now 25 cents. And yes, the customer has the ability to vote with their feet. They can cancel their subscription and move on. That has revenue implications, booking implications. So the pivot, although it's easy to communicate about the shift to subscription, operationally across a business, it puts a lot of stress on every part of an organization. And we've certainly gone through that ourselves. Now I'll say this though, it's given us the ability to extend our software in one offering. So it's an exciting transition, but it requires a lot from leadership.
From a cost perspective or from a demand perspective, was that more of a internal strategy decision, or was that something that your customers had asked for, whether through direct feedback in terms of, hey, I don't want to buy a new thing every 12 to 18 months.
Right.
Is there a way to just continually have the best and the newest?
Yeah, so it was mixed because some customers really they're used to that cycle of every 2 years having a release. they've budgeted for that. They rely upon that. We would bundle the new software release with a book package, and those were usually well received. So some customers really like that motion. Then you have organizations leaning in and saying, it's probably time to modernize and move in this direction.
To make the conversation, thanks for the context of what you guys went through, but the broad topic is basically changing the entire business model of a business that wasn't failing, but you're just pivoting to perhaps target new customers, as in this case you said an academic institution now bought 150,000 licenses.
Yes.
Because you're able to do that, and it becomes a monthly or an annual expense versus a capital expense, right? And so in essence, for the CFOs in the audience, it's CapEx versus OpEx basically, right? And so how much complexity internally did you have to plan for? And what lessons have you learned from that transition that our audience can also learn from in changing basically your top line structure?
Let me come back to the top line structure, but we were not operationally structured to onboard 150,000. So it means our back office tools have to modernize. It means our customer success function has to really ramp up. How we train has to be thought through differently. You mentioned the customer can decide to cancel. So we have to always improve and listen more carefully and be more customer centric. All of those things start to put pressure on your organization in ways that were very different than a 2-year release cycle. And that, not to mention, it changes how you sell, how you pay your salespeople. Do we go to market with partners, or do we would say affiliates? And so all of that, when I stepped in, we were still debating on how to offer the software. We kind of put a stake in the ground and said, we're going to go do this. And then we anticipated that 2025 would be a year of learning and fast fail, fast repairs, in some cases fast success. And so we're in the midst of all of that. From a top line perspective, very interesting. I mean, 2024 was probably, I would say it was the best year in company history.
Okay.
So we weren't coming into this because we felt like there was failure. We looked at it more as an opportunity to truly scale the business. Let me put it in a different context, and this goes back to vision and strategy. I worked in the early days with many of the hyperscaler companies, with Netflix before they were direct to consumer, with Facebook when it was only 100 million users. I can go on, but my perspective was what we've done for millions of customers, how do we try to do that now for 1 billion? And that aspiration, which is, that's a really, really, really big vision for us. That aspiration is going to require that this model not only be successful, but we can take it on a global basis and scale like crazy.
I want to ask a question that has to do with projections and future of your particular business, but for others. So when you go from a purchase model to a subscription model, the key metric that is most important is figuring out what the lifetime customer value is, right? How long are they staying with you? Because then you can project. You might lose some money in the front, but make it up in the back end. How do you project LTV or lifetime customer value in an unknown where you've never done that before?
We've done a lot of research on that this year. So the first part of that is what's the cost of acquiring the customer? The next part of it is what's lifetime value? Right now, our ratios look really good. They're very, very strong. We're like 4.8x or something of that nature. I need my CFO here to give us, our new CEO.
Sure.
He can give us. But and then there are other parts of the business where if it's a 1-year agreement, then the lifetime value is harder for us to know until we get into renewal cycles. So our early indicators are positive. Okay. We have folks signing up for multi-year agreements. But this renewals phase that we're just stepping into right now, because we launched this time last year, will start to expose churn and everything. I will say though that most of our customers have an auto renew option in the mid 90%, and most of them have chosen to auto renew. So I think we're going to be in a good place, but you kind of hold your breath on a little bit of that.
I mean, I think there are some unique factors to your business model, starting with who the demographic is. It's tied to your faith, you said. Yes. And then so, it's not a standard Netflix subscription where the consumer behavior is probably a little bit stickier in your world. And so I want to shift the focus back onto internal. You mentioned it before. You've had to change how you operate, how to pay your people, how to, particularly your salespeople. I know you have a sales background, so compensation for sales folks is critically important.
Near to my heart.
Teams.
Near to my heart.
Me too. And so how did you communicate those changes internally? And how was it met? And then how did you anticipate making sure to get them onto this new vision and saying, hey, this is actually best for you and for us collectively?
One thing about our company, and if you go on Glassdoor or if you're there internally, you look at our Net Promoter Score, which is really favorable, customer satisfaction, very, very strong. We have a good culture, Jerry. And it's unique. I mean, we work in the evangelical faith ecosystem. We work with the Catholic faith. There are others, but those are predominantly who we serve. The company, in my opinion, was ready to move. I mean, we were all excited. We had a wonderful founder. They did unbelievable work over 30 years. And our company, I think, came alongside the idea that if we can do this now, maybe at greater scale, this is a time and a place where that's really important. So we all jumped into it. Here's when you operationalize a new strategy, when you try to execute a new vision, there's a key layer of leadership that has to do the really heavy lifting and the hard work. So it's one thing for the senior team to have that vision and even to really work hard on refining the strategy and working through that. There's another group of leaders where you're asking them to do really difficult things to operationalize the strategy. So our first step was, how do we bring those leaders alongside of us, provide the right incentives? How do we start to create the right mechanisms to know if they can go institute and create a new capability for the company? And then those leaders, in turn, have a responsibility to try to bring the rest of the organization along with us. And I think we've been very fortunate. There's a great group of folks that are helping with this whole thing.
Between vendor demos, policies, and pressure to move fast, many HR teams are asking the same question: what matters right now? The AI plus HI Project 2026 was designed to answer that through experience, not theory. You'll see AI solve real HR challenges, collaborate in hands-on labs, and lead with practical ways to apply what you've learned. With 4 tracks aligned to your AI journey, this experience meets you where you are and moves you forward with confidence. Space is limited. Register now at shrm.org/AIHIPod.
So you were asked to lead in the CEO role with the change on the horizon. You navigated it, and now you've transitioned out of the role into the board role. During that intentional time of foreseen change, but also unforeseen challenges, how did you view culture, recruitment, and retainment of your workforce? That, feels like it's a place where people are there for a while, and so that change and the disruption. You said great culture, people wanted to change, but still, people are resistant to change. People, have to, go through the motions or take a little bit longer in certain cases, and so. How did you navigate and continue to navigate the cultural component and then the promotion and leadership components?
Well, change can happen to you or you can lead change. And there are people in the company who feel like, well, change is happening to me. Most of us would say we love change. We want to see, when it starts to occur, it's usually disruptive to what we know. So what becomes most important is we're nothing without great people. Sure. Your teams, and how do you maintain and keep communication strong, and try to keep the culture alive and well and thriving, and do your very best to allow people to have transparency. We try to be very transparent in the good things and in the areas that we need to have improvement in. And so as an organization, there's a quote that's overused. I thought I was unique in my understanding of it. I've heard it multiple times now from others, but it's a Swahili quote, and it says, you can go fast alone or you can go far together. And so we try to institute that idea that we're going on a long journey and we're going to do that together. And now leadership has a responsibility to lead against that vision. We try to bring the organization through. Recruiting and bringing the right folks alongside the business. Sometimes the natural part of change is that some people say, this isn't for me. It gives you a chance to bring in new talent and folks that have a very different background, and we've had some of that. But for the most part, we've had a pretty good journey from this point, I would say.
In terms of transparency, we talked about internal things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about sort of the communication that you had to do with your customers, right?
Yes.
So you had customers who have purchased. I would imagine that you have a very robust and clean email list that you relied on and had some projections on what's the conversion rate there. Yeah. How did you anticipate the response that you would get?
Yeah.
Because the SaaS model, the subscription model, is only as good as the conversion rate based on the cleanliness of a list that you have, or affiliates and other things, but mainly.
And we're in I was actually going through the number of subscriptions that I have, and I was surprised.
Love you forget about, right?
Yes. Yeah. I realized I had 2 Netflix accounts for the last couple of years. That was interesting. They
don't tell you have to. They just collect twice.
No, and there's no rebate either. So I know there's a fatigue in the market. When we were trying to bring our customer base along, we have very active, passionate forums that some of our best users are most active in our forums. And so I produced a series of videos and said, first we were still in a consideration phase. So we tried to communicate out. We got a lot of feedback. We did surveys. We had a number of ways to reach out. There was mixed opinions there. But we tried to bring folks into it. And I think if, there's this, again, another silly thing, but I think it was from this movie, American President, with Michael Douglas. He said people will walk through a desert to chase a mirage, and when they get there, they'll drink a glass of sand if the vision is strong enough. And I think if our customers were to say, the vision here is that we're trying to really extend the reach of what our software can do to impact churches or academic institutions or individuals or families. And if they appreciate that we really want to scale, and this is the only way we have that chance to do so, then they might not love the transition, and we don't want to have a deaf ear to that. But I think there's at least a high level appreciation that some of what we're striving for is probably aligned with even biblical principles.
We on the Tomorrowist, we talk about the future of work, and the future of work cannot be talked about without talking about AI and automation and its impact on all of our lives.
Yeah,
it has had, and it will continue to have an impact on content, broadly speaking, both creation and curation and summarization and all those things combined. Is your topic and your industry immune from that because of the source of the content or the community that you serve? And how has that impacted sort of how you look at the outlook of the future of a subscription business on content that is faith-based?
So AI is controversial in the faith system. There are pastors that can produce a sermon using ChatGPT the night before Sunday.
Just read it.
And go. And that's part of the world we're in today. We've leveraged AI, but it's only within the framework of the content that we have. And so our summarization is against those 300,000 books. Our use of AI is not going to the public web and trying to pull and leverage the large language models that maybe some of the big search engines use today. I would say over the last 12 months especially, I see less concern about AI. We're all using AI somewhere.
Sure.
It's immersive. It's here. It's everywhere. But how we present that, we try to take a very responsible view. And when you do a summarization or a search, or if you use natural language to look across the Bible or a series of commentaries or books, that what you're receiving back will always have a biblical worldview. It will be accurate. What we sell at the end of the day, to be honest with you, is that can be trusted.
Right.
That our software can be trusted in that. It's not to say we might not make a mistake somewhere, but we really work hard to be very, very reliable there. We found something out though that's interesting, super interesting. Mental health is a huge issue right now, as everyone is appreciative of that, and it's touching many, many lives. For many churches, it's the number 1 or number 2 challenge they have as a church. So we partnered with the American Association of Christian Counseling, and we brought in 30 years of their content into our platform. We ingested it, indexed, tagged, searchable. It's all content that we trust. That all can leverage AI now as well. So for counselors, or even think of a pastor who might spend 15 to 20 hours a week counseling people one-on-one, now they can take things like complex trauma or relational challenges and do the same type of summarization leveraging AI against mental health issues. And so it starts to give us some extensibility of our model that we're pretty excited about, to be honest with you. And I think it still serves the church in a very positive way.
Excellent, excellent. You personally, Bill, have been welcomed in as a CEO, had an intentional succession plan. You've handed over the keys to Chris,
yes,
and now you sit in this oversight role as the chair of the board. What has that transition been like for you, and what have you learned from that? And what are some things that our audience can learn from as they may either have ambitions to follow in a similar role or be asked to, whether they're ready for it or not?
Well, let me say this is very personal. I've gone in my own life. I've gone through it's been a very, very difficult year for some personal challenges, and it's the right thing to have Chris come in. Chris is brilliantly smart. He is my most trusted partner. He drives our culture and is involved in our culture as much as any leader I've seen in any organization. He's a really, really special leader, and his readiness to step into the role was just as obvious as anything we could want. For me in the transition, as chairman, I'll stay very active, of course, at a strategic level, and then I've made the commitment that I'll be very involved in the larger relationships that we have. I've been on other boards, and if you folks research me, they can find some of that. I've always loved board roles. It's to me, it's a chance to coach and sometimes you can be a CEO whisperer, sometimes you step in, you can be really firm on some decisions we need to just ground and get to the bottom of and try to do that with the executive team. But I look forward to it, and our owners are a private equity firm out of Boston called Cove Hill. Couldn't be a better group of people to work with at that level from a strategic standpoint. So this season for me it's really an exciting moment, and to watch Chris thrive, it'll be the joy of my life to see him do well.
Well, you said, I appreciate you sharing some of the challenges that you've gone through, and I appreciate you being honest with us through this process. For you and for the business, it's been a year of change and transformation in the midst of a lot of uncertainty around our communities, our country, our world, and then we'll see how things pan out. For our audience who may be, again, whether it is by design or changes happening to them, they also may be going through a season of change and transformation. What's the best advice that you can give to somebody who is anticipating change or will inevitably be faced with making a change, whether they want to or not?
That's a good question. I find a lot of peace, and I think reflection or meditation, or I would say prayer, is always very helpful. But the other thing, I forget the statistic, but I think 95% or 96% of what we worry about when change is occurring, or even when we anticipate, it doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen as bad.
Yeah.
And so sometimes as we go through change, we're like, boy, this will just be disastrous. And yet other doors open and new opportunities come about. And I think sometimes just grounding yourself in that perspective that it's probably going to be all right.
Yep.
And if it's organizational and it's with companies, Jerry, this is what all the work that your company does and all the time you spend with leaders, AI is going to create change. Well, it's already happening.
Sure.
So we all have to maybe have a posture like, hey, we're ready for some of this, right? It's going to happen, and we better lean in, because you don't want it to be something that just affects you randomly. So I would say embrace change and just know it's coming.
Well, you mentioned something earlier, Bill, that it's, either change will happen to you or you can create the change, right? And then I think there's also a saying in business too, you can disrupt yourself before your competitors disrupt you.
That's right.
And then you can reinvent your business to stay ahead as a competitive strategy.
That's right.
And so you can put yourself out of business by reinventing yourself. And so, I think, change is inevitable. It happens all around us. It will. It is a fact of life. And so I think you have, as the leader of logos, navigated that well. And I think, creating the change, you have not total control, because, none of us really do.
I don't think
But
that
you
exists.
probably have exerted a little bit more control in making the change happen for yourself, rather than a competitor or the market forces, making sure that change is happening to you. So thanks for your time. This has been a wonderful, insightful conversation. Best of luck to you in your new chapter.
Thank you.
And best of luck to Chris as well.
Yeah, thank you all. It's fun to be here and be a part of this, and we're flattered and honored that you'd have us on your show.
Thank you. That'll do it for this week's episode. Be sure to check out our show notes for resources on leading organizational change and preparing your business for the challenges of tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time on Tomorrowist. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe to Tomorrowist wherever you get your podcast. We also publish a weekly newsletter with in-depth articles and the latest SHRM research to help keep you in the know about the trends shaping the future of work. You can subscribe and find all of our episodes on our website at shrm.org/Tomorrowist. Thanks for listening. And remember, the workplace is changing rapidly. You don't have to be a futurist. Be a Tomorrowist.
SHRM.